Good afternoon. Gary Easom, 125 Magnolia Hammock Drive, Ponte Vedra Beach. I'm president of the Ponte Vedra Palm Valley Athletic Association. I've spoken to you many times before. One thing I want to impress upon you today is that when you go to vote for this thing, make sure you make an informed decision rather than a philosophical one, because a lot of people that come here and talk, they talk philosophical ideals, and that's great, and believe me, that's what this country was founded on, and maybe philosophical ideas are well and good, but I don't think they have any place when you talk about facts and figures and budgets that are going to either improve lives or not going to improve lives. There was an ad that came out in the St. Augustine Record about statistically saying that a 1-cent sales tax is a 17% tax increase, and mathematically it is, okay? But realizing the fact that the county only enjoys a ½ cent of the current 6% sales tax, a 1-cent sales tax increase is a 200% return on investment. And people say, don't trust politicians. We've got a couple of chuckles out there about our appointed officials like Mr. Wanchik or things of that nature. Well, you have to trust your officials, and you have to trust the administration for making an informed decision. And that is knowing what the facts are, where the money goes, and yeah, there may be mistakes, and yeah, you can always cut a budget. You can keep cutting until the cows come home, but let me tell you, there's going to be consequences. And yeah, I'm here because my ox is being gored, and that's Parks and Recreation, because my kids depend on those parks greatly. And if the funding is cut on those parks and money is not spent to upkeep the parks, it's not like, well, this year we won't get as much money, so we'll make it up next year. If you go a year without keeping up with those fields, you're going to be paying 10 years to correct the problem. I was looking at this, 48 seconds. I was looking at this proposed projects. I think there's 65 on the map. I think about 27 of them are for Parks and Recreation. But the other projects has to do with things like sidewalks, shoulders on roadways, all things that benefit all of the citizens. And people talk about this tax being regressive, and yes, it will impact the poor more than it will the wealthy. But the services that the poor get based upon where the tax goes is going to benefit them greatly if they would just look at the facts and the figures. I'm relatively a conservative guy, and I'm against a sales tax increase. Not this one, I'm for it. But when you look at the facts and figures, unless you think that Wanchik is some nut or hasn't done his homework, then you have to believe that that's the only way to go. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Denver Cook, 266 Topsail Drive. And you guys are going to hear a lot of emotional talk today and a lot of angry people. I'm here because I'm an angry parent. And the speaker who just spoke is one of the reasons I'm angry.
Yes.
They are not closing parks. I talked to the director of Parks and Recreation. Even in your worst projections, you're not going to be closing our parks. Our kids are still going to be able to play. Our libraries will still be open.
Stop the clock, Denver. You'll get your time. Just one second. I'm going to insist that everyone in here act civil. No shouting at the people who are speaking. No shouting at people who have just spoken. No being rude. We will not tolerate that. We can, in spite of it being emotional, we can have civil discourse. So please, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. Thank you, Denver. I appreciate you letting me have that.
Thank you, Chairman. No, it is a fact, even in worst case. We're not losing our libraries. We're not losing our parks. We're not losing our fire department. We're not losing our roads. Are they going to be where I want or other people want in our times? No, they're not. But neither is, what I get to do with my kids every year, exactly everything they want. They want to go to Disneyland every week. They're not going. This summer, they wanted to do swim team and they want to do some other things. They're not going to get the 3 trips to Disneyland or 2. They might even get 1. Those are choices we make. We elected you all to make choices. This is not you making a choice. This is you passing the buck. I look at these numbers. I look at them constantly, and I've talked to many of you about them. And 3 minutes isn't enough time to go through it. The administration's right. We're missing $16, $17 million between transportation and fire. This tax does not fund those separate tax line items. The only way that I can see that this actually being reasonable, if you believe you need more revenue, impose the 1% if you can get people to vote for it, which I don't think you will. Lower the general millage rate and raise the millage rates and live within your means like we all do every day at home. It's not fair to come and ask for a pile of money to build a whole wish list and say that's why we need it. So we can bring you all this much more services and all these great other facilities, but it's because we can't maintain what we have now. You're not having a shortfall for building stuff. You're having it in the transportation and fire fund. Fix those funds. Fix them. When you fix them and when you show us as a community that you've solved the other services in this community, then come and talk with us if there's not enough. That conversation has not happened with this community. We don't need another board. We have you to do that. Reach out to us, talk with us, come to our town halls and listen to us and hear what we're saying. Because I guarantee you talk to people in this room, just about everyone is willing to give up a little bit of something in their life so that we can provide the opportunity that our kids and our families want and why we moved here. We're not getting it. You guys are not getting it at this point. You know, I think you all are very intelligent people. Personally, I like y'all. But you need to start paying attention to us and what we're saying to you, because we keep saying it. And impact fees, in my last 4 seconds, you're absolutely right. They're not being told properly to this constituency. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman, gentlemen. My name is Jerry Temeny. I'm a retired colonel from the U.S. Army. I live in North Beach, 3850 Laurel Street. And I'd like to discuss a few issues with the potential tax increase we're facing. Plain and simple, we don't have to cut parks and libraries. The county population grows 5%. We balance the budget, period. And we don't have to cut into parks and libraries, especially when the county is expecting a 7 to 8% increase in growth. Currently at 5% growth, transportation receives $10 million, but would like an additional $12 million for pavement management. And fire and rescue receives $24.7 million, but would like an additional $4 million. So at 5% growth, the budget is balanced. An additional $16 million is desired. At 7% growth, we balance the budget, we have extra $2 million. At 8% growth, we balance the budget, and we have an extra $3 million. We could direct that $2 to $3 million towards pavement management and fire rescue, but we need to find an additional $13 to $14 million. Two quick examples of where we find funds without raising the fire millage or taxes could come from the county public works, spending only about $2 million versus the $12 million approved for the new facility. There are existing $1 to $2 million options nearby. The county approved $5 million for a new VA clinic. The deal fell through, so that approved $5 million was not in use to build a new VA clinic. These are two areas we looked at. This $13 million would cover the $13 to $14 million requested for additional pavement management and fire rescue. At the February BCC meeting, they voted to look into the multiple options for additional revenue, not just the sales tax. St. John's residents have voiced many types of options, including user fees, cutting wasteful spending, such as spending $300,000 on an out-of-cycle referendum. As we know, it is easier to stir up people for an unnecessary tax hike if they think their parks and libraries are being closed. It is much harder to get folks out to a one-term special election ballot just to pay for pavement, which, because the county doesn't want to tighten its belt. There are many out-of-the-box ideas which could work, but I don't have time to discuss in my 3 minutes. While the conduct of an out-of-cycle referendum is within the law, it is perceived as manipulative. We have seen how Americans have lost trust in their leadership in Washington. We don't want to see the same thing happen to St. Johns County. We're very proud of our leadership. There are many options for raising additional revenue. Let's keep them all above board, allow the citizens of St. Johns County to make informed decisions and exercise their God-given right as Americans to vote. Proposed referendum is in essence, is taxation with minimum representation, which is very un-American. In closing, there are many options for raising the needed revenue. As an Army officer, it was my job to work with resources I was allotted. You are our officers. We expect you to do the same. God bless you. God bless America. Yes.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Jim Sutherland, 50 Ocean Woods Drive, St. Augustine Beach. Mr. Wanchek, Madam Chairman Dent, Commissioners. Mr. Google, maybe it's Ms. Google, one of them is in my phone, says referendum, a general vote, not a special vote, of the electorate on a political question. There are those who today here want to have a special vote, excluding a great majority of this county's citizens, the electorate. It would be a special manipulation of law that allows this body to do that. However, I pose to you, commissioners, and Mr. Wanchek, you know, each of you was elected in a general election by the electorate. Would it be honest? Would it be fair? Would it be responsible? Think about that. Think about that.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon. I'm Mary Gear at 1165 County Road 13 South. We're all here today because we have strong feelings and strong beliefs. As residents and neighbors, we have ideas about how we would like the county to serve us. I have strong feelings about the service I get at my home. The workers who gather the recycles, the trash, the yard waste, they do a great job. They're efficient, they're professional, and I appreciate everything that they do for the neighborhood. We can measure the service that they give. We know that they're going to come on a certain day. We get to know them, we have a wave and a smile, and they're important to us. However, there are other services in our county that cannot easily be measured. Our library system is in need of funding. What we cannot measure is what will happen if the libraries do not get the funding. How can you measure what would happen if a library has to close or shorten its hours? What happens to the children who no longer have a place to go to use a computer or to get help? I don't know the price that we would pay, and I cannot measure any damage if we do not fund the libraries. We read about other counties and the problems that they're having with crime. We have some of that in our own county. A library is not a first aid solution for crime. It will not cure all the ills, and it will not prevent all the wrongdoing. It does not replace a healthy family life. It might, however, give a safe place and a smile to someone who needs it. It might direct a child to an honorable life or redirect someone headed for trouble. A library can be a secure alternative. We don't want to measure our community with any negative scale. I encourage everyone to consider funding the library system. And I heard a previous speaker say that the children need help and the old people need help. I'm an old person, but I want to help the children. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Dr. Marty Monahan, 141 Jupiter Road, San Augustine, Florida. I wanted to just mention a couple things. One is that if this survey that was done objectively, I think that it would say something along the lines of, hey, are you in for a reduction of your sales tax? Are you wanting to keep it the same, or you want to increase? And then having the people respond. I personally believe that making St. Johns County more attractive, Maine, Virginia, other states have got a lower sales tax. They have a 5% sales tax. I know that there's a buffer of a half a cent that's needed to budget. I think you guys should go back to Tallahassee and make that happen. Make St. Johns County so attractive that people will want to come here. They'll drive thousands of miles to buy a car, to buy a boat, to buy whatever. I think we need to look at it in the long term. You guys are going to be holding positions here, but then your children or whoever is going to be in times to come. My point is this: if we make it attractive, then $300 million can be made over the next 10 years, next 15 years, by having more businesses here, because we have an irresistible attraction to them. And I believe that you can increase the size of the stick, but if you're going to put this up there, why not just say, hey, we're going to have that up there, but we're also going to have one underneath it. Let's lower the tax rate by X amount. And yeah, there's going to be some shortfalls initially, but we can come up with those. Maybe tax-free municipal bonds, other options, maybe tax credits paying forward for the businesses who can afford that. There's got to be other options. That doesn't necessarily need to be an option of sales tax increase. That is, in my opinion, the wrong direction we want to have. We don't want to make businesses not stop by here. We already have a wonderful paradise on earth right here. Let's continue to reap that benefit. I believe that when we see the increase in the bigger corporations paying more sales tax because more people are coming, we'll have maybe 10% growth over the next year. Let's make it to where more and more people want to buy here in St. Johns County versus Duval County or other counties.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Bill McCormick, 9224 July Lane. I think what the good doctor said about a citizen advisory committee and have them work on this for 6 months and meet with the department chairs, not a bad idea. Too bad he didn't make that a few months ago before the budget hearings were held. And we could have had that citizens advisory committee sit through that and look at all of the different things that each of the performance measures of each of the departments. The lady about the libraries was saying, well, we don't know about the performance measures of the other departments. Those are discussed in those budget hearings, and the citizens are always urged to come, but very few do. I happen to have attended. A few points I want to make, and one is on this oversight committee and the questions raised by Rachel, because I think they're very important ones. How large is that oversight committee going to be? How is it going to be appointed? Who's going to be represented? I, for example, would like to see each district within the county have at least one member from that district. There's 5 right there. What about the zoning boards? What about the school board? So how large will that committee be? Maybe it has to be 10 or 12. But I think it needs to be, and they need to be all competent individuals that understand finances as well as the other aspects of our county. Wait a minute. I've got a couple other things to say, I know. One is this whole thing about the thing about, well, if this isn't going to pass, then don't have a ballot of the citizens. Let's not do that. I think that's a straw man argument, and I've made that argument all along. Let the citizens see and vote on this. That's my position. Most of the people here are up here arguing, we don't want to see this, we don't want to have to vote on this ballot because we're against it. But where are all the citizens that maybe are for it, that aren't here, that are talking to you today? All I'm saying is give them an opportunity to vote. The other point that I wanted to make was, well, 2 things, and I'll do it real quick. One, the fat in the budget. I haven't seen a whole lot of fat. If you think the government employees are living like princes and making a lot of money, that they too much money, I think you're wrong about that. One more thing. I see what it is here. Oh shoot, I'm out of time. I'll quit.
Thank you, Bill. Good afternoon.
Good Thank you for the privilege of allowing me to come up and speak with you briefly. I'm actually pretty much a newbie to St. Augustine. I'm Mary Ann.
Name and address.
Okay, Mary Ann, 3333 10th Street, Elton. My point is, it's terrible when you're new in Florida. I put my resumes out there everywhere, and I'm so well qualified, and I can't get my foot inside the door. So literally, the library is, well, it's a lifeline for me. I went in there today to download a resume, turn in an application in another place, and there were 24 people, all of them on computers. They were not playing games. They had their resumes, they were looking for jobs, they were getting repairs done on their house. This is a critical situation, and I can't personally have you shorten the hours at the library, and I use 3 of them, and Hastings is one of them that I use, and the county one right here on US 1. I did not know that the children were not involved here. I'm a long-term teacher. I would pay, and you don't know anybody poorer than me that still has a roof over their head, and maybe that will change shortly. But I'm absolutely for the tax. And as a prior aquatics director at the YMCA, and I have years and years in several different states, they present me a budget, I look at what I have to present, I find out, wow, we don't have enough money for me to do those things in the budget. So I fundraise. I got my people together, I got the parents together, what do you need, what can you use? I'm all for fundraising. I moved to Florida, there were 2 primary types of people. This is a retirement community, absolutely, a retirement state. And also there's a vacation state. Guess what? There are a whole lot of families here with children. And this has to be an ongoing situation. When you have more people moving out in the last few years, and this is documented, versus moving in, this is a problem, okay? And I don't want your job, and bless you for having it, but we have to either pass this or we have to come up with some fundraising so the parks and the libraries and our children their needs are being met. So I'm happy to vote for this, but absolutely we've heard really good things from parents, and fundraisers have to be involved. And I'm sure the gentleman that was talking about the park, maybe he can come up with some ideas with that. I know my field of expertise, and believe me, I come up with fundraising in my fields of expertise. We just have to look at this, we have to pass this, we can't cut this. All right, thank you very much for your time, I appreciate you.
Thank you, and welcome to St. Johns County.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, commissioners and staff. I'm Andrea Anthony, 313 North Shipwreck Avenue. I'm also the vice chairman for the Republican Executive Committee, which is the grassroots arm of the party. The party historically is opposed to tax increases, opposed to the growing of government. In this room, you have people who oppose the growing of government. You have people who don't oppose the growing of government. You have government employees who probably on both sides. I think it's a fundamental question, the function of government. The people who are so, have a lot of energy on the library issue, the 1 cent sales tax is going to cost them a lot more money than if we just instituted a library fee for the people who enjoy using the library. They would still have their library, and it would cost them a lot less than paying 1% sales tax on everything they buy throughout the year. So I don't know if I am a numbers person, and I've thought these things through. The same with the Ponte Vedra Athletic Association. If they instituted, I believe that the numbers work out about a $30 user fee, far less than if they institute a 1% sales tax increase on everything you buy all year long for 10 years. So, I mean, the real hot buttons here could be solved very easily with user fees that I think people would be happy with, and they would end up spending less to have that happen. Also, you know, if people want the projects, that doesn't necessarily mean the county has to fund them. Americans generally are pretty self-sufficient, pretty enterprising, pretty entrepreneurial, and if they really want those things to happen, they'll make them happen. Businesses are very philanthropic in this county. They love to have their name out there advertising on a ball field. to say, hey, I support this project. The parents frequent the business, and it's a very symbiotic and wonderful relationship that we have in America that's kind of unique to us, where government doesn't provide everything. They don't provide all of our extras. We make it happen, and we increase our relationship with business. We increase business for those businesses, and it works really well for all of us and costs everybody a lot less money. As far as cuts, no one would notice. I did sit through a majority of the budget hearings. I have a list of close to $1 million here that I'm pretty sure no one would cut, or nobody would notice. Starting with the $400,000 feasibility study in beach renourishment, an $80,000 salary for a chamber employee, $81,000 to refinish courtroom benches, $45,000 for a Jack's USA membership, which I understand that's economic development and they bring back more money to the county. There's discussions we need to have. Adding back an employee to the ag services at $130,000 that was laid off in the previous downturn. These are real numbers, and it always hurts to cut. It's not fun, but we want to shrink government, not grow it. Thanks. Thank you very much.
My name is William Booth of 231 Rolling Oaks Road, St. Augustine County. My wife and I have been active members of the Friends of the Libraries at the Southeast Branch for at least 10 years. The libraries provide all kinds of wonderful programs for children through adults. Some of the programs are as follows: computers, movies, book reading club, teenage programs, children programs, adult programs, and many, many more, all free. What a shame if it was necessary to shut down some library branches or reduce personnel, cause a reduction in essential programs because we did not allow St. Johns County to levy a 1-cent sales tax to help support those necessary programs. Please bear in mind that a full library system is absolutely essential, and not to have it would be a great loss to the community. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Ara Klejian from 9217 July Lane in southern part of the county. And I guess one advantage of going a bit later as a speaker is that you can hear what others are saying and piggyback on some of the comments. I enjoyed the comment from the gentleman earlier about a 6-month extension to this ballot. I say that because it seems to me that this sales tax increase proposal is the way the commissioners in total are approaching. The appearance is that that's what you folks are pushing. As Mr. Wanchek in his presentation this afternoon indicated, there are probably half a dozen different ways to raise additional revenues. I'm not a politician. I don't know what the requirements from the state is. But I would have to guess that, like the lady before me was saying, that you can impose user fees on people who use libraries, people who use parks, or any other service of that nature, certainly for non-essential services. I also would like to have information as a voter as to the $270 million capital improvement backlog for 10 years. This map that I picked up coming in is a great map, but I would like to see what the dollar amounts are per quadrant in terms of that 10-year capital project. I'm not sure. I was here a couple of weeks ago at the last meeting, and I indicated that 90% of the permits being issued are for the northern half of the county, from Route 16 and 208 north of that sector. As a resident of the southern part of the county, why am I paying for those people who are flocking into the county in that part of the county? Things like parks, things like additional libraries, even perhaps to some extent some essential services, not just non-essential. So those are some of the comments I had, and I believe that this ballot for the sales tax increase is labeled as a surtax for a 10-year period. I'm sure that we can figure out ways to have surtax on other revenue sources from the new influx of folks, whether it's a property tax surtax or some other ways to collect that money. But I'm really sincere in saying that the new people, the 65,000 new folks who are going to be entering the county in the next 5 years, those people should be burdened much more heavily with the additional cost. And I heard Mr. Wanchek express that by law we cannot apply impact fees to the backlog of capital improvements, but we'll have more capital improvements past the 10-year. Let's start working on that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon.
Hi, my name is Dr. Clark Monahan. I've been in practice for 40 years. I live in 139 Neptune Road, St. Augustine South. And I've been in practice for 40 years here in St. Augustine, and I just really feel like I'm taxed to death, really. I feel like a mouse on a treadmill. And I agree with, I didn't know what Dr. Marty Monahan was saying as my son, but I agree 100% that if you lower the taxes, you're going to increase more people into the county, and that's really the way you're going to raise revenues. And I'm against it, my staff is against it, their families are against it, there's a lot of people against it, and I hope that it doesn't pass, so thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, Justin Palisati. I'm 605 Sephora Circle, St. Augustine, Florida, 32092. I'm also the head coach for the Passetti Bay Middle School football team and a board member for the Villages Football Association. I'm also a conservative. However, I think that this tax is 10 years too late. I think we needed it 10 years ago. I hear a lot of speculation as to what the money's going to be spent on, what we would do with it. I hear a lot of speculation about cutting parks, cutting libraries, things like that. What I think the biggest concern for me and the people of my community is the fact that over in the World Golf Village area, there are no parks. So I can't suggest a surcharge on my players' families to attend a park that doesn't exist. The Villages Regional Park has been something that's been discussed over and over again by people long before me, and nothing's been done. Now, I understand that libraries are important. I understand that roads are important, and I understand that those need to be funded. But we have to have a place for our kids to play sports and to be active. And almost everywhere in the community, we have a spot for those kids, but we do not over at World Golf Village. It's been a deficit over there for a long time, and it needs to change. It needs to change now, not 6 months from now when we discuss it again, not 2 years from now. It needs to happen now. I just was witness last Friday, to a young man that while I was living in the central part of the city, came to me and asked for help. As a football coach, I took it upon myself to help that young man. He had just come out of jail. He was on the wrong road. And on Friday, I got to watch him graduate. And I helped him do that. And I'm very, very proud of it. But I helped him do that through our Parks and Recreation. And without that, I cannot continue to volunteer my services and to do the things that I need to do to help those people. So I know I'm the unpopular one here because I'm for this tax increase, but I'm for helping our children, helping the youth, and providing a place for our kids to exercise, to grow, and to expand. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Helmut Makash. I live at 6050 County Road 305 in Elkton. I'd like to say that all the debates and the comments that we've heard this morning, I haven't heard anyone touch on the basis that If we increase the taxes, which in my opinion is very un-American. I grew up in Europe and I have a picture in my mind of what America used to be like. And I lived in socialistic environments. I feel most Americans have no clue what that means. And perhaps some of them should try this out somewhere else. But I tell you, America has always been something to look up to. When I look at the county, that's a level of government that is just like any other level. Increasing taxes is un-American. Does anyone... As a scientist, I'm pretty good in math, but I can figure out also that there are implications. When you do your math on all these projects, has anyone ever thought about what if so many people don't buy in St. Johns County anymore? Maybe we end up with less taxes that we are collecting. We're doing the wrong thing. The American way is always to keep taxes low, make it attractive, let the business flourish, provide jobs, and when we have jobs, people can spend money. That's the conservative way. That's the American way. This is how America became the most beautiful and best and most powerful country on earth. There's nothing like it. It wasn't socialism, it wasn't communism, it wasn't any of these things. But it was the innovative ways of people organizing themselves and standing up for themselves. And when it comes to libraries, I would say, you know, these are essential and very, very important programs that we do, and we need to keep them up. They're much more important than multi-million-dollar buildings. So it is, from our point of view as citizens, it's a viewpoint that we say, well, wait a minute, if I'm in a business and I have choices to make, I have so much money that I have coming in, I can't spend more. And I will have to make those choices. The buildings would be the last ones. So here it is. I find it sad that people have to pledge for the library or for sports events or things like that. That, I think, you have done a great job over all those years. There is no doubt in our mind. Otherwise, you wouldn't represent us. That's all I'd like to say.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Chuck Forcier. I live at 3816 West Glendale Court, St. John's, Florida. I am the past president of Creeks Athletic Association, former board member on Julington Creek Baseball, serve on several sports boards, and booster club for Creekside High School. And I share that with you only to say that I have a strong sense of what is important to our families in our area. We take pride in being number one, as we mentioned before, number one school district. We take pride in having the number one parks, the number one teams, the number one fields. Why on earth would we want to take a step backwards? It is okay to be great. Let's be a great county. Let's fund a great county. Let's put it to the taxpayers to decide to be a great county. We sent out an email to 7,000 of our members. We have 5,000 members in Creeks Athletic Association, 7,000 emails. We received 2 negative emails back, 2 out of 7,000 that were sent back. The overwhelming majority of the people want our services and our parks to continue and to improve. If you take a ride along Racetrack Road, you see your predecessors have approved hundreds of new homes. If we don't fund new parks, where are these children going to play? If we don't fund new schools, if we don't fund new libraries, where are these people going to go? So I ask us to continue to be great. I understand it's a challenge to say you're for or against taxes, but democracy is great. Put this back to us. Let us decide. That's all we're asking. Let us decide if this is something we want. And if I'm wrong and we get outvoted, hallelujah. We had a great democracy. Democracy sometimes is bloody, sometimes is ugly. But we have it, and we had a chance to have our say. I come from a municipality where every single, 10, 15 years ago, where every single fiscal budget was voted on by the citizens. It got bloody, it got ugly, but it was democracy, and we had our say. Not 5 people, with all due respect. Hundreds of thousands of people, 100,000 voters. Let us decide. That's all we're asking. So let's be great. Let's do this not for the greater good. Let's do this for the greater great, and let us decide. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman, Commissioners. My name is William Fisher. I reside at 10130 McMahon Avenue in Flagler Estates. And I don't think the issue really today is a 1% sales tax. I think the big issue is how's it going to be on the ballot? It's my feelings and some of my constituents' feelings out where I live. This should be on a general election ballot, not a special election. Save the $200,000. One of the reasons are the working man cannot take off work to go to the polls and maybe get there on time. Where in a general election, his employer will probably let him go. I know mine will, and mine used to, and I used to work for St. Johns County. I spent 26 years here. Now, I know this proposal budget for everything I saw there, where fire rescue wants to replace 10 fire engines. The life expectancy of a fire truck is about 35 years. Most of ours are within a 10-year span. The most miles they get on them in a week's time is going to the grocery store to buy groceries and back. They'll tell you that too. Now, along the same lines, the vehicle maintenance, they spent over $200,000 last year with an outside vendor who was not a low bidder, doing maintenance and repairs on fire apparatus and ambulances. They've got a nice garage, they've got a full-time mechanic. Why isn't he fixing it or have a helper? You do it in-house. You don't outsource it. I appreciate the opportunity to come here and speak, and you will see me again. Put it on a general election ballot, please.